Yes, yes, yes. I know it's another Purple Pain Monday. We didn't want this to happen on Thursday, but here we are. A lot to talk about, a lot of negative stuff to talk about, which I hate. I like being more, brighter side, glass half full, but really hard to talk about some, good stuff here. But you can talk about the Purple Rain podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. Follow this guy right here on Instagram or on X at Sutton F. Me, Instagram simply as10.prod, X simply as10. I will vouch for myself and Sutton as the games are on Sunday, and like with us not being good, our rage tweets are actually pretty funny. I will say that. Like you get the best like comedy out of these situations. So if you want to laugh, follow us on Twitter. Definitely suggest it. And if you want to get your beard looking right, get the facial hair looking right, Manscaped code PRP for 20% off your whole order, free international shipping. And it is episode 340. So let me give a shout out to some of the 40s. Malik Harrison up now. Kenny Young and the Teddy Buchanan episode of the Purple Ones. Kind of want to skip that and just kind of get and talk about how bad yesterday was. Um, how embarrassing it was as players, coaches, and I don't want to start too ahead, but Sutton, how are you doing? How was your weekend outside of the game, and how are you feeling overall?
Weekend was good. Weekend was good. Like I was telling you before, I had a family in town. I actually told the people on the live stream that I did after the game on Sunday. I had family in town. My little brother came to visit, so that was really awesome to see him and stuff like that. I got to hang out with him. But honestly, after Sunday, like it kind of like spoiled it for me just a little bit because like I was kind of like half trying to be like present with family, but then like the other half of my mental was just like, bro, what the fuck did I just watch? Like honestly, like for the second or third week in a row at this point, and it's just like it kind of feels like doom and gloom. And for guys like us, Alex, who cover this team and year in and year out, for it to be going like this, for the season to be going like this, for us to talk all off season about how we're retooling the roster, how our draft was really good. I think we both gave what like B grades on the draft or something like that. So we were excited coming out of this offseason. So to start this season, as you guys can see with the title of the video, 1-4, one of the worst starts to a Ravens regular season in franchise history. I'm not feeling the greatest. Much like a lot of other Ravens fans right now, I know that there's a lot of commands that Ravens fans have been, kind of tweeting about and posting about on their social medias. By the way, DWAS starting us off strong here with a super chat, dropping the two-piece in the chat, man. Thank you for making it rain, DWAS. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. DWAS says we need to run cover zero more. Man, you know what? I've heard about, like, hey, let's just start sending more blitzes, right? Let's get back to the Wink Martindale days, right? So I guess we could just kind of start and get into it. By the way, shout out
Yeah.
everybody watching live in the live chat. If you're part of the hashtag replay gang, salute to you. Shout out to you. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, salute to you as well. But let's get right into the damn thing, right, Alex? What do you think about what DWA says right here? We'll kick it off talking about the defense. I also want to get your experience. I know you were at the game. I want you to tell me like exactly how that went, because you haven't talked to me about that at length yet, but I want to know. But what do you think about DWAS's comment here?
Yeah, it worked. It held up a field goal one of their drives. That was when Van Noy came and just absolutely wrecked CJ Stroud. I'm tired of the zone BS. These aren't really zone corners per se. Wiggins and Tampa, I think, are more man corners. And that Zach defense, I think me and D Was talked about, it's like we're running a lot of cover six, it feels like. And quarterbacks are just dissecting it and beating it. And yeah, talking about, going to the game, I had a really good weekend. Um, I didn't let the Ravens ruin it because I went in actually pretty optimistic. I'm like, you know what? We can win this game. Like, why not? We're at home. The Texans aren't a good team, and they're a good team, I'll say, but that offense is not a 40-point offense. It's how bad our defense is. And, all credit to them. They got their win off us. Congrats. First win in 10, 11 years against us. Congrats. But after kind of the first drive, you could tell how it was going to be. They went on and just marched on us. And I'm not lying. Here's the program from yesterday. I can't, lie that I wasn't there. I promise you I was there. It just, I left after the first drive in the second half. You can call me a big fan, but I had better things to do than waste my time watching a team that obviously doesn't care. A lot of players on that field were not fit to wear the purple and black yesterday. A lot of coaches weren't fit to be wearing them purple black polos. They showed these like unprepared, undetermined, lazy. Um, that was not Baltimore Ravens football. And I know the whole Jair thing with him ripping the ball. Why is a guy who's been here for 2 months has more heart than guys who have been here for years? That was my gripe with that. I know, don't let him in. I agree. Don't let them score for them to celebrate. but you know, go out there with a bang. If you get a 15-yard penalty, it's not going to hurt. We were down 30 points at that point. Take that ball and fucking punt it in the stands. Fuck Jalen Noel. Fuck his first touchdown. I don't give a shit. Like, where's the dogs on this team? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there are none. And for a player's coach, man, I'm not seeing no players playing for this coach. Let that one sink in. For a player's coach, I'm not seeing players who are playing for this coach. So
Yeah.
that was kind of me at the game. Um, I could go next week. I'm not going to. My mom is. So shout out to her. Good luck watching Puka Nakua. And I told her, I said, you know what? You're watching a great Ram team. I said, enjoy what you're watching for the Rams. You're watching a future Hall of Fame quarterback, a future Hall of Fame receiver, a good team. Enjoy it. I want to enjoy this Ravens defense, man, because it's awful. So enough of my ranting. Matt Ross says his team will need to rebuild 2 to 3 years, maybe 2 to 3 months, if we're going to be honest. But Sutton, I'll hand it off to you. You were watching the game from the TV. I heard JJ Watt was trashing us, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, I think one gripe that a lot of people had with the broadcasters in that game was the fact that they kept comparing the Ravens to like the Ravens of old, right? Like that's clearly not this Ravens team identity anymore. And that's something that I think is frustrating to Ravens fans because like national media, you guys need to wake up and smell the damn coffee with this Baltimore Ravens team. They stink without Lamar Jackson playing quarterback. It was like Lamar Jackson is quite clearly, of course, the heart and soul of the team. And it was just kind of like bittersweet. He's on the sidelines, like he's holding all the cards. He's got all the leverage in terms of this contract situation that's coming down the pipeline for him. And he's kind of smiling, joking around. He's got the gold chain on, really looking like he has no worries. There were some times where he was just kind of looking on and like, God damn, like we're getting trounced like this at home at the bank. I'm sure he's not used to it, but it should have been a wake up call. If nothing else, this was the first game that Lamar Jackson did not start this season, and you saw exactly how this Baltimore Ravens team performs without him. Now I know we are I word riddled. Roquan Smith did not play. Kyle Hamilton ended up not playing. Ronnie Stanley. And there's a whole list of other guys as well. You know what I mean? Awuzie, another guy. And so you got a bunch of young guys, a lot of rookies out there, a lot of rookies, a lot of undrafted free agents, a lot of Keon Martins, Ruben Lowry's who got a ton of work. You know what I mean? Guys like that. Teddy Buchanan, who's struggling now. Simpson was still getting some work in there too. It's just with this Ravens team right now, we can definitely talk about the personnel and guys being hurt, but when it comes to who's leading this team and who kind of I guess inspires willpower and fight and courage in this team, they're not living up to their job. John Harbaugh, Zachary Orr, Todd Monken, they're not living up to it. And as expected, the Ravens in the very beginning of this game, and I'm sure this probably gave you hope watching from the stadium. They went down and they had a pretty decent first drive, right? They put together a pretty decent first drive. But as we know, those first 10 to 15 plays, those are mad scripted. We saw some creative stuff with Keaton Mitchell that broke him off for a nice 6-yard run. Would have loved to see a little bit more of him. But outside of that, I mean, the Ravens went right back to being who they are. And appreciate the super chat donation, Matt Rasta. We'll get to that in 1 second. But the Ravens are like basically like that toxic person who like gets into relationships with people, right? And like at the very beginning of the relationship, they try to be this person that they know they're not deep down. But at the end of the day, they end up revolting to their same old trash self. That's who the Ravens are this season. You know what I mean? Like they're that toxic partner. And unfortunately, we're on the end of that stick, right? Us as fans, we have to deal with that. Mad Roster dropping the 5-piece in the chat. Thank you so much again for making it rain here on this episode of PRP. Says this team is poorly built. We have a collection of soft, undersized players. Nothing will change. Even watching the Ravens game is hectic. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Now, what I will say, I'll say this. I can't. Yes, things are bad right now. And I want to know how you feel about this, Alex, too. I can't put blame on Eric DeCosta, Ravens GM, for this. I think going into the season, we all thought, for the most part, that this Ravens team was one of the best teams on paper. They really didn't have a whole lot of weaknesses at all. Yeah, we talked about, yeah, there's some uncertainty at left guard and right guard, and it was mainly just right guard that people were concerned about. Now we're concerned about both, in a dire way. Um, and then we would talk about things like, oh yeah, well maybe the off ball linebacker. Well, who's gonna play that role? Those were the only weaknesses. You know, there's been I words that have been stacked up. Guys have been hurt. I cannot explain to you enough the importance of a Nnamdi Madubuike now. And I saw people saying over the offseason that Nnamdi Madubuike was overpaid. You know what I mean? But and I know he's out for the season, so it might look like that now, right? Because he's not available. But it was a night and day difference. At least it was so much of a difference having Nnamdi Madubuike kind of getting some of that interior pressure, shutting down the run from the inside, because now we have none of that. We have none of that. We get dominated in the trenches. And if you get dominated in the trenches, you're going to lose everywhere else, because football is a game that's played from the inside out, right? It's a chain reaction of things. I mean, we talk about the defensive line, but I'm gonna flip it back to the offensive line really quick. Like, if the offensive line can't get any push, right? If the offensive line can't have success, that means your quarterback can't have success. If your quarterback isn't having success, that means your receivers aren't having success. Adversely, if your offensive line isn't having success, your running game isn't going to be successful. So it's all predicated off of those trenches. I think that the Ravens offensive line, we went into the season with some optimism, right? Tyler Linderbaum anchoring down the middle. Left tackle Ronnie Stanley just re-signed him. We had big hopes for Roger Rosengarten after his first year. All we wanted was Daniel Faalele to keep making progression, keep progressing in his skill set. And we didn't really see that. We haven't really seen that. Andrew Voorhees, haven't seen that either. But I can't blame Eric DeCosta and the GM, Eric DeCosta for the downfalls of this Ravens team. I just can't. We were making it work before with the exact same offensive line. Last season, one of the highest scoring offenses. Up until this past 2 weeks, I would say, one of the highest scoring offenses in the league, right? With that offensive line. It's the defense now. It's the defense without Nnamdi Madubuike anchoring that middle. I really don't see how this Ravens team kind of recovers from that, right, Alex?
Yeah. So I think one thing that I mean you can say about EDC is that our question marks right now over the offseason are our big stories. Edge, how we're going to generate sacks, and the line. Uh, as for ADC, I think what I'm really upset about is the amount of draft picks I think he uses and they don't make the team. And we'll talk about these UDFA guys. Maybe there's a problem when three of them make the team. One is cool and cute. The three is kind of all right. If we're not drafting this talent with our picks and the UDFA guys are making it, there might be a bigger problem in our scouting department, I'd say, and that's kind of worrying. As for the undersized players, I see it on defense, getting bullied out there. And it was kind of just the fundamentals. I think coach I want to say, we were running man coverage and our DB's eyes are in the back of the backfield. And that's how you get an easy touchdown because they're already now a second behind. So it's
Yeah.
like the basic stuff is not even being done correctly. And it just baffles me. And that's why I maybe would feel guilt for leaving. I don't care, you can call me a fake fan. I'm not wasting my time watching that because it's not winning football. It's not Ravens football. To be fair, how many Ravens are on this team right now that like you can say, fit the mold of playing like a Raven? I didn't see it at
Right.
all. It
No,
was just embarrassing.
oh, absolutely. From start to finish, man. It was if you thought last week versus the Chiefs was bad, then this one was just like a full on. I mean, there was no fight in that team from the first quarter to the last one. At least in the Chiefs game, you could tell they were trying to do something, right? The defense still couldn't get a stop to save their life, right? We're still allergic to turnovers, right? Haven't had a turnover since that Browns game. And that Browns game in hindsight now is kind of pissing me off, if I'm being
Yep.
honest with you, because it wasn't like, yeah, we've got one win on our record, but it feels like we have none, right? It really feels like we have none because we know that the Browns cannot hang with this Ravens team. A couple super chat donations to get to really quick. Mad Rasta, thank you for making it rain here in the chat.
Thank
Says
you,
the
thank you.
Bucks are the same archetype as us and playing with a lot of rookies. Now the Bucks have a great GM. Do you see their defense and Emeka Ibuka? Yeah, man, the Bucks are looking really good. Baker's looking like an MVP candidate early on in this season. Shout out to the Bucks, man. They're doing it up. And I said over the offseason the Bucks can be really good, right, Alex?
Yeah.
What did you think about the Bucks?
Jason, he's a great GM. Their defense is a little suspect to me, but when you're putting up points like that and when defense is making stops when they have to, i.e., game on the line, getting a pick, with however many seconds left, like when has Ravens, defense made a stop like that, get the ball back when it's tied or we're behind, and we need that ball back to win the game.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing, especially in the playoffs. We talked about that. So good on them. When you're putting up 38 points without Mike Evans, that's impressive. And I do want to talk about Ravens receivers real quick because our coach has something to say about definitely I think our favorite receiver. But
Okay.
good on them. Emeka Egbuka for me leading for the offensive rookie of the year. I mean he looks that good and he's gonna be making cases of receiver to win it. So it just and they're in a pretty poor division. So it's just all working out for them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Another super chat donation here coming from Brian DeRosa. Thank you so much, dropping the two
Yes.
piece in the chat. Making it rain says top three things the Ravens need to do to make the playoffs. And after this, we can get to some of Harbaugh's comments. But top three things the Ravens need to do to make the playoffs. I think it's as simple as this. Number one, you've got a little less than a month. November 4th is when the trade deadline is. I think if you're Eric DeCosta, you will be doing this team a huge disservice, especially within the context of this 2025 season, if you did not trade for a defensive tackle. I don't know who, but you need somebody in that interior D line who's going to be able to shut down the run and also create some pressure from the interior. Who that can be, who are some of the viable candidates that the Ravens could possibly trade for? I'm not really here to speculate that. That's Eric's job, to be honest with you. But that just needs to happen because right now they're very thin. They're very thin. That's one for me.
I have one. I don't know if they'll trade it with us, but Sebastian Day from the Titans. I definitely would take him. I just don't know how willing they'd be doing to do work with us. Granted, they didn't want to send us Derrick Henry, but we were Super Bowl contenders back then. What 1-4 right now? Let's say we're like 3-5, would you consider us Super Bowl contenders if you send us a defensive tackle? I'm not too sure, but I agree with you there. And I'm looking at alignment as well with maybe team control for next year because as much as I do, have my problems with Flele, Andrew Voorhees is the worst man on the line. He is the worst lineman on there at the five. He cannot go into the season starting next year. Hell, I don't know if he can be a backup. It's that bad. How bad is Ben Cleveland for him to not get a shot with these guards?
Yeah.
I gotta know. I gotta know how bad he is in practice because it's an embarrassment to these backup linemen that you aren't even gonna sniff. Even when you're down that many points, just to throw them in there and just hope it sticks. It is awful, man. Awful.
Yeah. Absolutely horrible. So I mean, that's one thing. Definitely trade for a defensive tackle. The other thing, I think it's going to have to be, unfortunately, because I didn't want to, have to be talking about this in week 5 going into week 6 of this season, but I think it's about time for Zach Orr to go ahead and get demoted. You know, and the problem why that most likely will not happen. And Harbaugh already said yesterday that he does not. He vehemently said that he does not think that that's the answer. Moving on from Zach Orr, the reason that that won't happen is because they are. I mean, of course, that was Harbaugh's pick, right? And since the Ravens like to hire from within, they have a special type of relationship. Like all of them are kind of have an affinity to each other. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to, just it's not business. It's less business. It's more like friendship. And that's honestly to the detriment of this team. But that's the second thing that I think needs to be done for the Ravens to make the playoffs this year. There needs to be a change of defensive play caller because there is no reason, there's no rhyme or reason or way that Nate Wiggins for the second week in a row should be back there on the field in that secondary, confused at what the play is before the ball is snapped. There's no reason why Malachi Stark should be looking over at the sideline, frustrated, like, "Hey, like we're not in the right position. Like I didn't know where are we supposed to be. Like what are we talking about here? What are we talking about?" Harbaugh said today, that Chuck Pagano, because he's a guy who a lot of people would think that he would be able to step up and take that role of defensive coordinator at least for the rest of the season. We don't even know if Chuck Pagano wants that role. He just came out of retirement. So I don't really know how much responsibility he really wants, right? But Harbaugh already said that Chuck Pagano is very involved, very, very involved already with this defense. So you've got Pagano involved. You've got of course Zach Orr, who's the defensive coordinator right now, involved. You've got Dean Pease as a consultant, who they're just hitting up on the phone and asking him, hey, like, what do we need to do to get better? And you've also got John Harbaugh, who Cordell Woodland, friend of the show, he was just on the show the other day. He said that he asked John Harbaugh directly, like, if he could be more hands-on with the defense. And Harbaugh told Cordell, I couldn't be more involved with the defense. You know what I mean? So, like, there's all these heads, there's all these people kind of scheming up the defense, and it still looks this bad. You know, it just something isn't adding up to me, right, Alex?
And that's why he won't call him out, because he has a hand in it. He
Yeah.
talked about the team taking accountability today. This guy is his own worst enemy. He did not blame himself. As the head coach, he did not say, I got it wrong. He did not put any blame on himself, which is my problem with him. Listen, I got to, appreciate what he's done for the team. He's been the second coach since I've been alive. It was Billick and then Harbaugh. For me, my remembrance of football is mainly with Harbaugh. I obviously remember Billick, but the majority of my life has been with Harbaugh. Thank you. But, bro, it is time to go. You swear you're the smartest guy in the world. You will never take accountability. You won't just leave. Really, it's like you're the problem. Like, you are literally the problem. You have lost the locker room. You have instilled your weak. I'm gonna try to curb your weak, soft mentality. That rah rah stuff isn't working anymore. It's not, and it's showing on the field. And you said that you've been in the situation the Ravens have 1-4, one other time. Are we proud of that? Are we proud? Oh, we got out of it.
Yeah.
This team looked better in 2021 with Greg Roman and Wink Martindale against good teams. Hell, we played the Packers. We took them to the end with a 2-point conversion. We played the Rams, the eventual Super Bowl champions, at home. We played them. It took them a late Odell Beckham Jr. touchdown to beat us. And we had Kevon Seymour and Robert Jackson as our defensive backs. We had Alejandro Villanueva and what was his last name? It was Sharp as our tackles. And you're gonna expect me to hear we've been through this before? We have a much more talented team out there now, and we're getting our ass whooped by the Texans. We're letting CJ
Yeah.
Stroud have career games against us. D'Amico Ryan's letting them just talk shit on us. Like, where do the dogs go? There are none. And that's kind of why I'm lost, man. Like 2021, we actually showed some fight even though we were losing, but them games were freaking close as hell with really, really good teams. We're just getting blown out by mediocre teams. So
It sucks because what's the most frustrating about it, and why honestly I can, totally understand why you left the game early, because I would do the same thing, by the way. It sucks when the other team's punter has to get waken up in the fourth quarter, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, we do need you to work today. Actually, you thought you were gonna get a day off. You almost did, but we got just one punt at the end of the game. We forced one punt from the Houston Texans. So literally every other drive was a touchdown or a field goal that they scored. And of course, like I said, we're allergic to turnovers, so we don't do that over here either. The Ravens right now are not creating any chaos at all. That defense is not creating any chaos, and that's the problem. Like we said, you got guys playing super far back. They're strictly reactionary. At this point, they look confused out there, and all they're trying to do is not get beat over the top, right? So they'll let you get anything underneath that you want, anything at all, right? And teams are just able to march right down the field for the fourth week in a row, or no, the fifth week in a row. I'm sorry. The Ravens lost the time of possession battle. They have not won a time of possession battle all year, right? They've won one turnover battle all year. That was against the Browns. And I don't even want to talk about or count that game. It's just, it's and Spiritual War says that's Harbaugh making them play back like that. I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen. And if it is John Harbaugh who's continuously allowing offensive coordinators to just say, hey, look, they're going to give us everything underneath. So, like, we don't even need, because you think about this. Here's the sad thing, Alex. Here's the sad thing. Teams haven't even, like, past 2 weeks, the Chiefs and the Texans, they didn't really run all over us. You know what I mean? They didn't even run all over us, but they didn't need to. You got quarterbacks who can complete 80+% of their passes against us because we're just giving them these free routes underneath. And that basically simulates their run game. They're going to take 6 yards and 8 yards at a time, get down in the middle of the field, keep the clock running. We lose time of possession, right? Our defense gets more and more tired, and they get more and more confident, the other team's offense. This defense is absolutely just, it's atrocious. Like you said, it's not Ravens football. They're not creating any chaos. They're setting back and letting everything happen. And Harbaugh talked about that today. He said the defense has to start manufacturing good things to happen, like batted balls, tip balls, like get some interceptions, some turnovers, like let's get some pressure, and that's another story, right? The whole pressure thing. And it's like I could blame the edge rushers, right? But at the same time, they barely have any time. They barely have any time to get home
Yeah.
because guys are just hitting that back foot and getting the ball out. And that's why I'm concerned about all of the other games that the Ravens have coming up post the bye week. You know, Caleb Williams and the Bears is one thing. I think that they are in perfect position to destroy this Ravens team. I think that a
Yeah.
team like the Miami Dolphins could do the exact same thing with how quick Tua gets the ball out. He's going to be slinging it all over the field, right? It's just with the way that the Ravens are being coached right now defensively, there is no coming back from that. Like if they continue to coach the same way, we're going to see more of the same. Nothing is going to change, right? We're going to keep losing games. This is what it is. Khalil Bowling says Stroud was in the pocket getting a pedicure. Yeah, man. It was crazy stuff, man. It was crazy stuff. I mean, when I'm looking at a freaking 3rd and 15, right? And I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, yes, the Ravens are finally about to get off the field. Maybe this will just be a moral victory. And you give up 14 yards on 3rd and 15. And then the Texans are so arrogant, in which they should have been at that point because they knew they had us beat. They just go for it on
Yeah.
4th and 1 and they convert. By the way, the Ravens never went for it on 4th down yesterday, despite trailing the entire game. They never went for it on 4th down. There are multiple times where the game was getting out of reach, and the Ravens should have went for it on 4th down, but they decided to punt. And it just kind of shows like there's just a mentality, right? It just shows like how weak this team is right now. And Kyle Van Noy spoke after the game, right? And he was saying, well, he was asked about whether or not John Harbaugh and Zach Orr's message is getting through to the team. And Kyle Van Noy kind of hesitated for a second and said, like that question's like out of my pay grade, really. When all he really had to do, if he truly felt like the message was getting through, all he would have to do is be like, "No, what are you talking about? Like, that's silly. Of course the message is getting through. It's all on us. We got to be better," which he did put onus on the players as well. But he said, and I quote, that the coach's messaging is quote unquote fine. It's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fine. We just got to do our part. That was what kind of blew my mind, Alex, with Kyle Van Noy.
He's been coached by Belichick, who before his UNC stint, and he was a pretty damn good coach. I don't know what's going on now, that whole girl situation. That kind of has ruined him, but he knows what it's like to be coached by some of the best. And what Harbaugh has done this year, it's probably the worst he's seen, if we're going to be honest. Maybe Detroit when he was there for a couple years, Van Noy, but what is bad, I mean, if things were good, he would have just bit his tongue and not said that. But
Yeah.
he wanted to say it. And he's been blessed with great culture in New England, and here the past 2 years was a really good culture, but now it just shifted. I don't know really where to start with this because I feel like I'm just gonna get upset and it's not worth it. But they announced the defense yesterday, and with all due respect, man, some of the names thrown out there for our starting defense, boy, how the mighty have fallen. Brenner been still in the Big 25, John Jenkins, bro. These are depth pieces. These are practice squad players at best starting for us in week 5. Once again, no disrespect, but that is not championship caliber defense or championship caliber team. And I didn't even watch the press conference because the same stuff from Harbaugh. The same, not good enough. Gotta be better. What are you gonna say?
Yeah. It's the coach speak, man. I mean, exactly. He has to kind of say these things. You know what I mean? He can't just get up there and be like, you know what, the fans are right. We're emptying house. Zach Orr's gone. You know what? I think I'm gonna step down too. I think a lot of Ravens fans, would appreciate that level of honesty. But of course, you're not gonna get that, right? And this is Harbaugh's job we're talking about, and we know the relationship that he has with Steve Bisciotti, who ultimately makes the decisions in that castle. EDC is also a good buddy of his too, as you guys know, they're neighbors. So it's just when it comes to the whole like taking accountability thing, you can only really expect so much from this Ravens coaching staff, right? Of course,
Yep.
they're just gonna say that the most cookie cutter things imaginable. Yeah, we got to coach better. Players got to play better. Players are gonna say they just got to play better. They're not gonna put it on the coaching at all. Which is like it's funny how that's not a two-way street there. You know what I mean? But if it was, it would be probably mutiny really fast. And that's probably what we saw back in the early 2010s, like around that 2012 season. Like that's the same things that happened. Guys stood up. You had some dogs. You had some actual dogs in that locker room. Now you guys know why John Harbaugh has his doghouse, because he does not like dogs, right? He does not like guys who don't completely just blindly buy into his system, even if his system is clearly not working. He doesn't like that, you know. Um, Go ahead. Yeah,
Hey, coaching matters. I just saw the Patriots go into a Super Bowl contender's home and beat them.
yeah.
It matters.
Ooh,
That the
and I
Patriots last year.
yeah, and I have a good
Uh-uh.
point about that because I was watching that game. I watched that whole game, right? Because I mean, normally when the Ravens lose, I don't want to watch football for the rest of the day, But now that the Ravens are losing the way that they're losing, and I kind of expect it and see it coming, it kind of affects me less and my me enjoying football for the rest of the day. So I watched that Sunday night football game, and I just kept hearing Chris Collinsworth. Appreciate the membership, Tila.
Welcome, welcome.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And I, oh my gosh, Chris Collinsworth kept talking about how Mike Vrabel is such like the perfect coach, to be coaching up these young, impressionable NFL players, right? He brought up a point saying that like it's a lot easier to buy into a guy who is, number one, physically imposing as Mike Vrabel is. That's just one. But number two, somebody who's been there and somebody who's done that. Somebody who can tell you, like, yeah, I was coached by Bill Belichick, right? And, I was taught that if you do X, Y, and Z, you win Super Bowls. And you see, I've got some. So, like, if you just do X, Y, and Z and buy into what I'm saying, we'll be good. Not to mention that he's an intense coach. Guys will run through a wall for that. And John Harbaugh, quite frankly, man, like Kyle Van Noy said, the messaging is fine. It's fine, right? But it's nothing that's going to get guys fired up. It's nothing that's going to get these young rookies, right, fired up to get ready to go run through a wall for you. Because all you really, you're not expecting your rookies to be super, super sound, especially your UDFAs. You're not expecting them to be super, super sound technically and really have the football IQ and knowledge to be exactly where they need to be at any given time and make all the plays that you would want them to make. That's not what you're looking for out of them. You're looking for them to just play hard, right? And learn on the job because that's what they're going to have to do. But if you play hard, good things happen. Good things tend to happen. It didn't really feel like, and Harbaugh would disagree because he said he disagreed. He said that he feels like guys played hard, especially the defense yesterday. I don't think those guys played with any heart. When you only force one punt in a game, and how many punts, Alex, did we force against the Kansas City Chiefs? Was it just one or was it two?
One, two. One
Yeah,
or two. I
yeah. Punters are getting days off when they play the Ravens. That's a problem. That is a huge issue. Our defense can't get off the field, and the offense can't stay on the field, right? And there's a multitude of reasons why, but man, it's bad. It's bad, man.
yeah. Offenses are getting their groove back against us. They're getting their get back games. They get right games. And one thing I do want to say, I'm a firm believer in like the mentality going into a game knowing you can win it, or the following the leader of the coach. And I saw the video come back up from 2023, and at the time I didn't make much of it, but now it really is showing a lot to me. And it was
Wait,
after
what
we beat the
video?
Texans in
Oh, okay.
2023 in the locker room. We are the number one seed, and we were going into the halftime and went and blew them out. Part of my language. Why the fuck is your head coach dancing around? Like, why? Why are we dancing around for a divisional win? And looking back at it now, that is very embarrassing. As the number 1 seed, granted, when the Titans came into our house and beat us, they had every right. They were like a number 7 seed. They went and beat the GOAT Tom Brady in his final game in Foxborough. They went in and beat the paper champion Ravens, who were the best team in the league. Every game was a blowout after week 4. But for us, dance against a rookie CJ Stroud and a rookie head coach and D'Amico Ryans, that's embarrassing. And since then, I've kind of seen this team is fine with being good and not great.
Yeah,
And it starts with head coach. He even said,
definitely does.
"Oh, that championship or bust mentality, that's such a loser, man." No, you're a loser, John, and you've been a loser since 2012. You got a coach of the year in 2019, and what happened? Arguably one of our most embarrassing playoff losses.
Yeah,
And that quote's been sticking in my head. You know, championship year, and to question the fans, like, hey man, we're at the end of the bar. Like I said, I thank him for what he's done and the memories he's given. He's given me some good ones, but he's it's getting stale, and I don't want you to tarnish your legacy, but it's getting to that point.
yeah. And again, the best coaches have had to move on. Bill Belichick, Andy Reid. There's a bunch of guys we can go down the list who have had to amicably part ways with their teams that they've been with for years and years and years, just because the relationship just ran its course. It
Can I add
just
on?
is what it
I'm
is.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Um, and people bring up the championship from 2012.
Hmm.
The Texas Rangers just fired a manager who they won the World Series with 2 years ago as a wild card team. The Milwaukee Bucks fired their coach. The Eagles fired Peterson. What the Lakers fired their coach who won the championship. It's okay if you have to part ways with a coach that hasn't gotten you a championship in a while and you've been close but not all the way there. It's not some crazy thing.
Yeah,
Change is necessary.
which is
So don't
true.
bring up
But again,
13 years.
I reference that interview that Steve Bisciotti did with John Harbaugh side by side on the Lounge podcast, or it might have just been an interview with Garrett Downing, but you could see it right then and there. How I don't want to say necessarily complacent, but just how comfortable Steve Bisciotti is with John Harbaugh coaching this team. Because again, that was a hand-picked selection that Steve Bisciotti made to acquire John Harbaugh as the head coach. Much like John Harbaugh handpicked Zach Orr to be his defensive coordinator. And it's not to say that we've never moved off of coordinators before, but I think when we do, it takes us a little bit too long, right? The Greg Roman experiment should have been over probably 2 years prior to when it actually ended, I would say. So again, all of this really comes down to being, an indictment on the head coach. And I wish that Steve Bisciotti would have woken up this morning. I know he did something for the Boys and Girls Club today, but I don't know what was on his mind this morning, as it pertains to his team and the product that his team that he owns is putting out on the field, because there were more empty seats at the bank yesterday than there were field seats. And I could see that on TV, right? There were also boos, right? They booed Harbaugh quite literally off the field. They booed John Harbaugh off the field, bro. And there were chants of fire Harbaugh in the stadium. If I'm Steve Bisciotti, am I waking up and saying, "Oh, the fans don't know what they're talking about. They're all at the end of the bar. National media, they don't know what they're talking about now that they're finally waking up to John Harbaugh. I'm still going to give this guy all 3 years on this contract, and then we'll see what happens after that." If that's how Steve Bisciotti is moving with it, then hey, man, we're in for more of the same. Carl, thank you for the 2 piece in the chat. Appreciate that. Says the trenches are too small. Rams are putting up 60. Yeah, man, that Rams game, I am not looking forward to it, man. I really wasn't looking forward to the Houston Texans game because I just kind of knew that, like, of course, the offense would look way different without Lamar Jackson. I knew it would sputter a whole bunch like it did all day. And then the defense, I knew it was only a matter of time before they just started bending it over and taking it, basically. Like that, basically, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So with the Rams, with the Rams coming to town with all their offensive firepower, man, I have no idea I have no clue how the Ravens plan on stopping them. It sounds like the Ravens just really want to get to that bye week, right? They really want to get to that bye. So this next game, man, curb your expectations. I think the Ravens are -7.5 underdogs in this one, or +7.5 underdogs. So Yeah, do with that what you will. But the trenches are definitely too small. Like I said before, missing Matabike is, man,
Yeah,
nobody's gonna really talk about it in a couple of weeks or so. But losing him for the season, again, top 3 players that we could least afford to lose. Nnamdi
yeah.
Madubuike, and he's gone. So yeah, man. But you mentioned something earlier, Alex, about Harbaugh. He had called out one of the receivers.
He did. He did. Mr. Rashad Bateman on the interceptions he's running. I agree, but can you single it out? He could have said, not blaming one guy. That we could have been better as a team. It could have been a lot better, but to single handedly, him, yeah, he could have kept running, and that's fine. I'm fully with that. That interception, that ball probably isn't thrown if maybe the game's a little bit closer. And why is it always the offense? Why is it not this defense, John, that you have a hand in? Ah, that's why. 'Cause you have a hand in it. And that's getting a little frustrating with me. Um, Especially it kind of goes back to when Bateman called AC ball years ago. I'm at this point, man, is where it's like, do you not like him? It's just he hasn't been getting his targets after 11 touchdowns last year. It feels weird. You don't give a guy a 3-year, $37 million contract and what I think 20 targets in 5 games when we've been
Yeah.
throwing the ball a lot more, 4 targets a game. Something ain't right.
Yeah, something ain't right. Something ain't right. I mean, I will say this. Like I said, I agree with you. I do think that Rashad Bateman should have kept running through that route. Because basically when he let up for even a half a second, he turned into the DB and the defender turned into the wide receiver. And of course, that was just an easy pick. Two of the picks from Cooper Rush yesterday weren't really his fault. Mark Andrews had one as well that he just kind of like juggled around and up until it landed in, I think it was Petrie's hands, and that was that. By the way, really quick, just speaking of Mark Andrews, there was a report that came out today by an NFL insider that said that he believes that the Ravens are open to trading Mark Andrews. So I think that with rumors like that starting to brew, I think you will see Eric DeCosta make one big swing before this trade deadline. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, when it's going to happen. If I had to assume, I would think that it's before the Ravens bye week, right?
Yeah.
You want to bring a new guy in over a week where the Ravens don't play. Everybody can kind of regroup. You bring the new guy in, whatever, and just go like that. But what did you think, or what did you make of the rumor, at least from this NFL insider? I believe it was Eric Williams, um, who said that earlier today that Mark Andrews could be on the trading block for the Ravens.
I'll be honest, I haven't been on Twitter, I think, since the end of the game yesterday. This morning I woke up and checked. Actually, I haven't checked it since about 5:45 a.m. this morning. So I did not know that. That's my first time hearing about it, but thank you for everything you've done, Mark. I appreciate it. But if they want him to a contender, you know, I'm always for a player to get a ring. Hell, D Hop too. If we're gonna be this bad, trade him because they don't deserve to
Man,
rot on the team. And Diop has been nothing short of reliable. He's caught him everything you throw at him. He didn't think he came the Titans of the AFC North basically. That's what we are right now.
yeah, yeah.
Same record,
I
1 and
just
4. We have the same record as the Titans and the Saints. Do you know how embarrassed that is? A
worse record
rookie
than the
Sam Ward
Panthers.
and Spence, yeah, the Panthers. And I thought about it. If we went up against other teams, will we beat them? And I'm not trying to be like I am a positive Raven. I thought we were gonna win yesterday. I really did. Patriots will probably beat us.
Yeah.
Drake May,
Oh,
if his first reading there, he's running. Our
hell, I
linebackers will miss
mean,
a tackle.
honestly, I mean, don't we have the Vikings too?
Yeah.
I think the Vikings could beat us.
Oh, 100% with Carson
Yeah,
Wentz.
yeah. Addison and Jefferson would have their way with the secondary. I mean, it's just, and that's the thing. The rest of the season is supposed to be quote unquote easier opponents, right? But like no opponent seems easy right now. With the issues that the
We're
Ravens
the
are, it's
easy
not
opponent.
exactly. It's not because it's not like it's just one thing, and that's what's most frustrating about this entire season so far is because one move isn't going to completely turn the season around and make the Ravens Super Bowl favorites again. Like whether it be John Harbaugh firing midseason, whether that be Zach Orr being demoted, whether that be the Ravens signing a D tackle, bringing in another D, anything, anything. Like no one move is going to like really turn the entire ship around, which is why everybody is pointing towards, what you kind of have to point towards. It's like head coach, right? But and I heard a lot of people today, a lot of Ravens fans saying that like, yeah, like Harbaugh, we could get rid of him. We probably should get rid of him, but getting rid of him mid-season, probably not the best course of action. You know what I mean? And like that's kind of the sad part because it feels like with all the struggles that the Ravens are having in all those different areas, you can't really fix it in season when you have a
Yeah,
game every 7 days, So it kind of feels like the season is almost over. It's like 1-4 start to the season. If you're staring down 1-5, if you lose to the Rams, which surprise, surprise, for Thursday's show, I'm picking the Rams to beat the Ravens, right? Especially with no Lamar Jackson. But
yeah,
if you start the season 1-5, after that, your real estate or your margin of error is running out very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Like you can only afford to lose maybe what? One more game? If the Ravens lose this Sunday, you can probably only afford to lose one more game. 6 losses, anything other than that, anything more than that, you can kiss any playoff hopes goodbye. And I get the AFC North is not that great right now. The Steelers are playing okay football. I don't think that they're playing great football necessarily, but they're getting it done, you
yeah.
know. And that's really all that matters. They have 3 wins in the win column, only 1 loss to show for. So, man, and I think their bye was just this week too. They had an early bye, really
Yeah.
early bye. But yeah,
So
go ahead.
I'm not saying this will happen, but if one it's a if you sweep the AFC North, which is hard to do, but we're 1-0 right now, which is that's cool. That's our only win. There's a chance you can magically win this division because the Steelers back schedule. They play, I believe, the Lions and the Bills and a couple other teams as well, and they play obviously the more AFC North teams who will play harder than us twice. So you can get 2 games back right there. I think 10-7 can win the division. As ugly as it sounds, it could, but who are the 9 wins against? If we want to say we just magically sweep the AFC North, there's your 5 there, but who are the other 4? The Jets, I
Yeah,
guess. Know what I mean?
yeah, and the Jets are struggling too. I mean, Justin Fields, I feel like he would look like a generational quarterback against this Ravens
Yeah.
defense right now. You guys saw that run that the Ravens gave up to CJ Stroud yesterday? Like, what are we talking about? You were at the
And
game,
that's what
so
I'm
I know
saying,
you
like
saw that. That was early.
playing hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, we played hard. That one in the trophy case next to 2012 and 2000. If we're doing that, John, like that's how I know he's really on the way out. Playing hard. How we fallen. I just mm,
yeah. Oh man, a couple crazy stats. Black Daniel says in the chat he had us with 4 losses on the season. We maxed out on quarter 1. Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's we're already
Like
up
at
to our
12-5.
gills. Already up to our gills pretty much in losses. Can't afford too many more. Uh we see Spiritual War Exposed says it can only get better with a new coach now because Harbaugh isn't any value on offense or defensive play calling. All that would happen is the new coach would bench John's guys and uncuff the coordinators. Uh, it can only get better with a new coach. I mean, I guess maybe. I mean, honestly, first of all, first order of business, Lamar Jackson needs to come back. The Ravens stand zero chance because, like I said, not only is he, the one who is going to make sure that the Ravens are averaging, 30, 35 points a game, he's also the heart and soul of the team. If you don't have him, guys look lost out there. They look lost. The running game can't get going, which, by the way, is so ironic how all last year we had to hear and listen to how Derrick Henry was the engine of this Ravens offense, and he's the reason why the Ravens are so good, and Lamar Jackson doesn't deserve MVP over Josh Allen. But yet, when you see this Ravens team without Lamar Jackson, and the game plan is clearly to feed Derrick Henry, 2.2 yards a carry, right? And I get it, the offensive line is not performing well at all. Derrick Henry's getting hit a lot in the backfield and at the line of scrimmage, which is not what you want. There's still no Pat Ricard, who there was an update on Pat Ricard today. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, man, it's just it's so funny. It's so ironic to me how people tried to justify not giving Lamar Jackson MVP because of what Derrick Henry was able to do.
And you see, Aaron player didn't have a good game for the Bills last night, and they lost. But I'll move on, and I will digress to the Pat Ricard news. And you mentioned that we had an update on him. So he said it
Yes.
was a calf, and it was supposed to be I think, 2 to 3 weeks or 3 to 4 weeks, and um, it flared up again, hurt it again. Here's my problem: if he hurt it again, why not put him on IR? If it's 2 to 3 weeks, IR is a 4 week window. Give him the extra week to activate the 3 week window, and he can practice again. Why does it make him inactive? And that just feels weird to me. Throw him on IR from the
Yeah,
start.
yeah, I mean, I think that Harbaugh did talk about that briefly. He said that he wishes they would have put him on IR at the start of the season. That way they opened up an extra roster spot. But the way that it was looking like he didn't need the full 4 weeks. And of course, the Ravens would want him back sooner rather than later. But one setback after another, and he called it what he called a slow burn. And it was funny to me because Harbaugh, he was like, "I'm gonna just be honest." Like this is what he said verbatim. He was like, "I'm just gonna be honest. Like he's got setbacks, like and I think it kind of speaks to Harbaugh's frustration with the situation because he mentioned how Pat Ricard was the most frustrated about it, but the way that Harbaugh was sounding about it, he sounded like he didn't really, you know, care for that situation too much, which is another story for another day. Ravens need Pat Ricard back. They need Pat Ricard back. He's going to supplement this run game in a way that the Ravens need in the worst way. So we need to have him back, and I'm just he's looking at the Bears game, right? That's what he mentioned. John Harbaugh said he's looking at the Bears game for him to come back. So I think there is a small silver lining. I think there's a small sliver of hope. If you're listening to this podcast right now, you're part of the almost 100 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming through. And you're looking for the therapy, and you're looking for a reason to still have hope, to still tune in on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays whenever the Ravens do play. I think that after the bye week, right? Again, like I said, I think Eric DeCosta is going to take a big swing in the trade market. I think you're going to get some guys back who are hurt. I think you're going to get back hopefully a Marlon Humphrey, hopefully a Kyle Hamilton. I think Roquan's thing that he's dealing with is a touch more serious. He might require a little bit more time, maybe a week or two extra. But you should have Lamar Jackson back, Pat Ricard back. The only thing that's really like not going to change, guys, is that defensive line, right? That defensive line, man, it's not scaring anybody, not without Nnamdi Madubuike, which is why I think that Eric DeCosta is going to have to make a big swing. But whoever you put there is not going to be a Nnamdi Madubuike, right? And that's the issue. But if there is any sort of hope, is that the Ravens will be coming out of the bye week a little bit more healthy, maybe a new mindset, a new outlook on things, and it'll kind of be like a fresh start for them. I'm thinking that's probably would be the messaging, I would assume, right? They're preaching a fresh start after the bye week, that they're probably going to go into 1-5. As Modius in the chat says, I'm just waiting to see Harbs get fired, and don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath,
Yeah,
as Modius.
yeah,
Man, it's crazy times here in Baltimore, right? Crazy times to be a Ravens fan. I just, at some point, and we talked about this before the show went live, it's like we don't want to keep beating a dead horse, right? Because it's like the
yeah.
same stuff. Like the same stuff is happening. The coaches say the same shit. The players say the same shit after the game. We haven't gotten any Marlon Humphrey podcasts or Kyle Van Noy podcasts yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. Let me see. Black Daniel says, "Let me be the pessimist here. I have no faith in the abilities of players returning, not named Lamar Jackson," which is fair.
How
Which
can
is
you
fair.
argue with that?
Right. Right.
What
Yeah.
what has what has our $100 million linebacker done this year except give weak ass pregame speeches?
I'm
What
not even going to
has
mention what happened in the Browns game because, again, I don't even want to count that game right now. As far as
and
I'm
that's the
concerned,
thing,
we're
like,
winless.
yeah, like are we? And especially with Joe Flacco, with all due respect, I can't put that much into that.
Yeah. No,
I want
not
to
putting any
say
stock into that.
they can turn it around. Like there is a pathway for us to make the playoffs, and you guys don't want to hear that, and I'm cool with that. And I don't really believe that we'll make it at this point that we've been looking. But if they can magically do it this week, you know what? I'm gonna bet the Rams money line. I'm gonna bet their spread. So hopefully it's like the reverse psychology, I don't
Yeah.
see it happening at all.
Me neither,
And
man. Me
we
neither.
talked about this too before we went live. We don't want to kind of sit here and just be those guys. You've probably heard it from every other Ravens content creator. We're going live on Monday at 7 o'clock after a long work day, just kind of letting it all out. But
Yeah.
they just aren't even really showing us fight, and that's kind of where I've lost my hope. And embarrassing. I've said it a lot today, but that's just how I feel. It's embarrassing.
It's just embarrassing, man. And it doesn't really feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, at least not a big one. You know what I mean? It feels like this is one of those seasons that, if the Ravens drop one or two more games, maybe three more games, which is still a lot of games to be played, then the season's just over, right? And you're just gonna have to start looking towards next year. You're gonna have to start looking towards draft and really retooling this team. Of course, the Ravens are gonna have to restructure Lamar Jackson's contract and extend him because they can't afford a 74 or $75 million cap hit next season for him. And then justify in their right minds paying the likes of Isaiah Likely 10 plus million. There's just it's they're between a rock and a hard place right now. And it feels like the Super Bowl window right now is like narrowly open. It was kind of like narrowly open going into the season, but right now it seems like it's closing just that much more, by the week. So, hey man, again, like my guy Alex said, we're just fans here at the end of the bar who are going to sit up here and just kind of let it all out, and just kind of vent as we've been doing for the past 3 weeks. This is
Yeah.
a 3-game losing streak for the Ravens. They lost on Monday Night Football to the Lions. And, after that Lions game, we were thinking to ourselves, there were some frustrating things that happened in that one, but we thought we could bounce back. Again, going into the Chiefs game, and the Chiefs just absolutely embarrass us. And that's when you start to see that quit, in the second half of that game. And then going into the Texans game, basically the whole thing was quit, basically. So again, curb your expectations for next week. I think that coming out of the bye, which the Ravens are going to be stumbling into, the Ravens should be better. Should be getting Lamar back, some more pieces on offense, Ricard, right? The offense for the most part has stayed relatively healthy. Like our
Yeah.
skill players, they've stayed pretty healthy. So I do have confidence once Lamar Jackson comes back and he can kind of steer that train, the offense will be back to scoring, more than 10, 20 points a game. That's for damn sure, right? And all you can really hope is that something clicks on the defense, much like we saw it happen last year. Even though I don't think that the issues from last year are quite the same as the ones from this year. And it was funny because Harbaugh said himself today. He said that he thinks that they're in a better position right now than they were last year around this time, which is comical, to be honest with you, because our record was much better back then, right, Alex? What were we, like 3-2 at the time?
3-2. You blew out the Bills at home, and you had a win, a shootout against the Bengals where you had an interception to get us the ball back.
Yeah,
So maybe that's the last time we had an interception or turnover when we needed it back and when it was tied or we were down. I want to bring up something real quick. Tila says maybe we'll finally get a cupcake schedule next season. Actually, I just thought about it. We will be playing the NFC South, which I think the World Division League. So that's a bit of a cupcake itself. The Buccaneers are a good team, but Saints really aren't sold. Falcons and the Panthers haven't sold me. As for the AFC, we play the East this year. Who we played last year?
we
The
played
West.
the okay.
No, we didn't. We didn't.
No,
We
we
didn't
played the
play the
South. We
West.
played the AFC South last year.
Okay.
I remember we had the Texans.
Uh,
Um, hmm,
Wait, no, we played the South 23 because we had the Titans in London, Texans at home. I don't know what it is, but I we will if we don't finish in first, we'll have a much easier schedule. All right, we
yeah,
won't be playing hard NFC. Like NFC North is a pretty good division, but
crazy that we're talking about next season, right?
yeah,
It's
I'll tell you
crazy.
this now. Looking back at it, and I don't think it's crazy to say, and it's a player we talked about. I'd rather have Mekhi Becton over Jared Alexander right now. And we talked about getting a guard. We're not saying a world class guard like the best in the league. Mekhi Becton is better than both Fulele and Voorhees combined.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's just competition we're talking about in March and April, and now it's sticking with shit and shittier. However you look at it. So,
Yeah.
and I'm tired of these projects too. I really am with EDC. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of his draft, his developmental BS. We're win now. He's 7th round pick, and now he was supposed to be a day 2 guy
We're
playing like
looking at
UDFA.
Oweh.
Owe has showed me nothing. Ojabo has shown me nothing. I'm to blame because I hyped him up. I really am. I should look at myself in the mirror in my bathroom and say, "You are the problem," because I hyped him up. So
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It's all bad right now. All bad. But listen, guys, we're gonna go ahead and leave it there for this kind of
we're
like vent
breathing. We're here.
session
We woke up.
from us.
That's the good
Yes,
news.
yes, we did, and hopefully this Ravens team can start to get healthier and they can start to stack together some wins because, like I said, the margin of error is shrinking by the week. So, with that being said, we love you guys. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you like this video, this episode 340 of PRP. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we will be live again on Thursday, previewing this Rams game, which should probably be a pretty bleak episode in terms of the predictions, to be honest with you. Just curb your expectations. But again, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sutton Def. You can find Simply AS10 anywhere. If you just type in Simply AS10, he's going to pop up. But yeah, with that being said, I'm going to let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for coming through episode 340 of the Purple Pain Podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. And our football team being bad is not the end all be all. We're breathing. Go smile. Hey, go smell some flowers while we still can. So
Touch some grass.
enjoy. Enjoy. The week. We'll see you on Thursday. And as always, stay positive and test negative.
Yes. And never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days like this one, to call God's. Episode 340 of PRP. We're going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.